What's up, my friends? Today we're going to look at Fantasy Cruncher and how to MME for MLB. I'm going to be using the Study Hub projections. I'll show you how to upload all the projections from Rise or Fall, and then we're going to make sure that we run these through Fantasy Cruncher. I'll show you all my settings and how I plan on attacking MME for this 2020 MLB season. I'm going to remove my camera, make sure the screen's nice and sizable for you, and we're going to get to work together. Let's go. So the first thing you need to do is you're going to go over to the Rise or Fall MLB Study Hub. You're going to grab all the players. You're going to grab all their projections for DraftKings. Then you're going to go back to FC, go to Upload Data. You're going to paste their names here, upload. Good. Now, if you've seen this before, that's great. If you have not, I actually have an Upload Data video that you can catch in my video log. So we're going to go to Advanced Options and General. Here is how I run it out there. I usually use 3 uniques. You can even drop that down to 2 uniques depending on the slate size. I think a large 11-game slate like we have today is definitely something where I'm interested in using 3 uniques. Team salary, I usually put that at 49.2, which will mean that every single lineup will use up at least $49,200 of the $50,000 DraftKings salary. Exposures, you can cap this if you like. I usually leave it at 100%. I don't ever really run into any issues other than sometimes pitchers, which you can adjust manually. Randomness, beginning of the season, a COVID shortened season is going to be higher randomness, 15, 20, 25% to start until we can kind of figure out how people have come into form here in this weird times. Now, when we're back here, I'm going to leave my entire player pool checked. I do not go out there and take anybody out per se when I am MMEing. I kind of want the entire player pool involved, and I'm focused more on these stacks. Where I do take out players is the pitching staff or the pitchers for the day. So I will often go through here and I have uploaded my projections, and I'll look at the projections and I'll decide, okay, between these 2 pitchers at this price point, I want more of player A. So maybe if I'm looking at someone like Chris Paddock at a very similar price point as Aaron Nola and Jack Flaherty, who have just immense upside, maybe Paddock doesn't make the pool, just simply because he's so close in price tag here. And I don't want Paddock showing up over those other 2, so Paddock is gone. And I'll go up and down, and I'll look at every single spot here, and I'll kind of decide who's going to make my player pool. Do I want them involved? I'll look at the value to see what the points per dollar stuff is. I'll have my ownership projections uploaded so you can use those as well. So anyways, today let's go ahead and just say, we got Ross Stripling. Let's go ahead and say we have just these guys, okay? And whatever, all these players are out. I don't have any of these pitchers involved. So we made a fake pool. So we'll use our fake pool. Go to advanced options. So again, just a quick recap. Game filter. I have the main slate. General settings, 3, 49.2K, 100% global cap, randomness, jack it up. Pitchers, pick the ones you want. Hitters, leave them all. We're not taking anybody out unless you're worried about injury. Go over to team stacks, and this is where things get new. I set this to 5 players. I do not want to run out a single lineup on DraftKings without 5 hitters involved. So I set it up to 5. Now we're going to create another stack. My other side, I always want at least 2 players involved from my other side of my team stack. So if you have 5 on one side, I want 2 on the other. That means there's going to be a one-off hitter at all times. So it's a 5-2-1 stack. That is how I run DraftKings. Now, they have something set up over here at FC where you can have no gap for players. There's a little I button here which tells you what that means. A 5-man stack would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you put 1 gap, well, that means it could be 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you had 2 players, then you could have a 2 hitter gap. You could have gaps in your lineups at different sizes. You can leave this on any if you want, where you don't care if there's certain gaps in any different spots. I think I like the idea here to do just 1 player, 2 players at most. I'm not a big fan of this. I mean, at that point, you've lost the bonus of having a certain player on the base pass when a teammate might be up to bat, and that's not really the goal here. So I'm thinking either 1 player or 2 player will be the way to go. We'll find that out as we go throughout the season. I'll go down this 2 player side, and right here, I probably don't want a gap if I am going to be using a 2-sided stack. So we're looking at either no gap, or we can even just say 1 gap. Just keep it simple today. So I think the best way to do it would be no gap, but for the sake of this little tutorial, we'll do 2. All right, so I got my 5-man stack set up at 1 player gap. I have a 2-player stack set up with a 1-player gap. I do not have pitcher included in these stacks. And now what you would do is you'd go through here and say, okay, well, here's Miami. They're up here. I don't want Miami. They're implied to score 3.48 runs. They're against Aaron Nola. Very good pitcher. Okay, so click this checkbox and boom, look at that. Miami is no longer included in my stacks. You can go through here and you can really pick and choose and take out some of these teams in really tough spots. KC against Shane Bieber, no thank you. Baltimore against Eovaldi, I don't know. Maybe that might be a nice leverage spot if Eovaldi's going to be higher owned. Let's see. Let's keep going real quick down the line. We'll take out Pittsburgh against Jack Flaherty, one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last 15, 16 games last year. Verlander, yeah, I mean, you never really stack against Verlander. You don't really need to do that in an 11-game slate. Maybe something smaller where you're trying to get a leverage on a pitcher who's going to be like 50% owned. Much like I had talked about yesterday about trying to leverage against Clayton Kershaw, but he ended up getting hurt. San Francisco against Stripling. I mean, San Fran just stinks. You don't need to target crappy offenses like this on a very large slate. Okay, so whatever. Let's pretend we went through here. 2-man stack, same thing. You're going to take out all these terrible teams. You don't want their offenses involved. So, pretend I went through here and I did all this. That's what you'll want to do. You want to take all of them out so that you only have the offenses you're stacking with that day. And maybe that means there's only 6 teams you're doing 5-man stacks with. And maybe your 2-man stacks, you have 9 teams, right? I mean, you can be a little bit looser with the 2-man side. But the 5-man, I would pick your top 5 or 6 offenses, and you can do that simply by going over to our DK Stacks tab, comparing the DK ownership versus the field, our DK ownership added up, the range of outcomes, which is our simulation based on, what our projections are showing you, batter versus pitcher matchup, and you can identify maybe the top stacks of the day. So we're looking at the Dodgers, we're looking at Boston. 25% of the time you're going to have a stack that adds up to this many points based on our 2-year sample size. Okay, we've got Boston, Minnesota. These are dark red. That means they're red hot. Got another one down here in Milwaukee, Colorado. Colorado's sneaky. I saw their implied run total was only 3.98, I believe. So that's a very interesting sneaky stack right now. So you do that, you grab 5 or 6 of your favorite stacks, or you can simply use my personal exclusive cheat sheet, which I have not posted yet. I'll be doing after this video, and that will have my stacks tier, my tiered rankings, as well as my pitcher stacks, or excuse me, my pitching targets. So you can use that sheet to go ahead and put it all together. All right, I feel like we're set up. At this point, you can chunk it out and just do 50 lineups at a time, 100 lineups at a time, 150, whatever you want to do. Okay, now, while we're crunching, I mean, this is the 50 I was just doing. You can see it. You can click on players. You can click on pitchers and see, okay, that's a great allocation. I'm spreading out my pitcher exposure, which I really like to do. Hitters, and you go over here and you see, okay, Boston, they're going to be incredibly popular today. They have a massive implied run total. They were very strong on our implied stack percentages. And if we're looking at, Boston's implied run total, it's 6.06. I believe that is the highest on the slate. Yes, it is. Very popular against freaking Tommy Malone. That's, it's a smash spot. They absolutely crush left-handed hitters. If we go over to our batter matchups, so you can uncheck select all, then check Boston on the sheet. It will show you only Boston bats, and you can see batter versus pitcher hand. Boston absolutely just destroys lefties, and they are in a spot where some of these guys can just go bonkers. And of course, you're going to try to go out of your way to avoid players like Benintendi, who has shown throughout his young career that he doesn't have as much power lefty versus lefty. So there's some other batters you want to target. Rafael Devers, same thing. He's just not somebody who you're necessarily targeting. And Jackie Bradley, definitely not. But they've got JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts. These guys rake against left-handed pitchers. You can still plug in someone like Michael Chavis, who was fantastic last year in limited sample size. There are sizable stacks here that you can put together and still have a fine option. And then the reason why I don't go out of my way to ignore players like Rafael Devers or Jackie Bradley with terrible splits, I mean, these are not good against lefties, especially over a solid 300 plus sample size, is that when you are looking at this, let's say they blast Tommy Milone, gets yanked in the third, who's coming in? What if there's some righties that come in? And now Devers and Bradley will get 2-3 at bats the rest of the game against some right-handed relief pitchers. And that's why you don't go out of your way to take out handedness of batters against the handedness of pitchers, because things will always change. Again, if you want to sort it by the teams, you can go back here, select all, put them all back in if you want to do it that way. Now, when you are crunching, I think there's another cool way you can do this too. If you don't want to see so many stacks on one team, again, you can look at the combos. I think this is pretty cool too. If you don't want to do so many stacks on one team, you can do it maybe 5-10 lineups at a time, and you can do less teams, right? So if I went down here and I was on the 5-man stacks, maybe I had only Boston checked, and I do 20 crunches with Boston. And then for my other 130 lineups I create, I don't have Boston clicked. So maybe the next one I do, 10 Colorado Rocky 5-man stacks. And then I know I want 25 Dodger stacks for the day. So then I crunch out 25 Dodger stacks, and I don't worry about any of the other ones. So you can remove all teams. What I mean by that is this. You could go over, I have no 5-man stacks now. So maybe I want Dodgers only, right? So, okay, we've got a Dodger stack. 1 gap is the max. All right, let's do this. Let's crunch out 25 Dodger 5-man stacks. We go down here, and now we're looking at our stacks, and here come the Dodgers, man. We're getting 5-man stacks right here, and I'm doing just the Dodgers. Just the Dodgers. And you stop that, you decide, okay, I'm going to go with, let's take off the Dodgers. Now I want to create some stacks using Houston. A bunch of cheaters. Let's use them. Now I want some Astros stacks. I'm going to go with, I want 12 Astros stacks today. So I'm going to make 12 5-man stacks using the Houston Astros. So Detroit lineup confirmed. And there we go. And listen, whenever you see these 6-player stacks, all this means is the pitcher was also added in there with the hitter. So you're like, Mitch, how do you get a 6-man hitting stack for Boston? That's cheating on DraftKings. No, don't worry about it. You got 5 hitters, and then you got Eovaldi here pitching for Boston. So that is what qualifies as a 6-man stack. And if you want to see it, click this little magnifying glass, and it will show you. And look, Eovaldi is in there as a pitcher in every single one of these lineups. And then you have 5 Boston hitters. Very, very nice. I like a lineup like this. I mean, you're working with a 5-man Boston stack. You've got Max Muncy and Cody Bellinger against Shark over here, and then Flaherty and Eovaldi. I mean, this is a freaking awesome lineup. This is something I would enter into a single entry in a heartbeat. Matter of fact, I am going to save that one. All right, my friends, I hope that this was extremely helpful for you. This was just a quick tutorial, and I think this will help people out, and I hope that this helps you make some money. Please, by all means, if you want to check out some of our other study hubs, I hope that you do. I hope that you check out all our exclusive content over at Rise or Fall. You can grab all of our content for every single sport, our study hubs for all sports, at patreon.com/rise or fall. All right, my friends, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Together, we rise or fall.